and play on 2nd and 10. That's his youth right there.
Tagovailoa trying to make up for it. Fires to the end zone. Touchdown! Alabama wins!
So today I'll be giving my Week 4 college football rankings and reacting to the new AP rankings. So I've still got Ohio State at number 1, and so does the AP. They didn't play this week, so there was no reason to change them. And I've got Oregon still at number 2. So they just played Oregon State, who's a horrible team, who's at 0-4, but they beat them 41-7, like you would expect them to do. So I have no doubt that Oregon is one of the 5 best teams in the country. But it won't be known for sure how good Oregon is until next week when they play Penn State. Because Penn State, even if they are no different than last year, I still have no doubt that they're a really good team. So if Oregon does beat Penn State, that will still be a very good win for them. And number 3, I've got Georgia. They didn't play this week, so I didn't change them. And the same with Penn State, got them still at 4 because they didn't play. So I moved Texas Tech up to number 5 because they got a good win. And I've been a believer in Texas Tech since the preseason, and they've played well all season, but they hadn't played a team anywhere near as good as Utah until this week. So I moved Miami down to number 6. So Miami, even though they did pull away against Florida, it did take them a little longer to do it than I thought it would. That wasn't a very good offensive performance. And I am starting to question how good their win over Notre Dame really was. I'll talk more about Notre Dame, of course, in a minute as to why I think that. So number 7, I've still got Oklahoma. So they stayed the same in my rankings because they did how I expected them to do. But this is clearly a really good team, and I'm pretty sure Oklahoma has a top 10 defense in the country. So I've still got Texas A&M at number 8 because they didn't play this week. And I've still got LSU at number 9. They just played an FCS team, but they won 56-10, like you would expect them to do. But right now, LSU actually doesn't have any good wins because the win against Clemson, now looking at it, they should have won that by more. And it won't be known if LSU is actually a great team or not until this week when they play Ole Miss. But right now, I'm not confident that LSU is actually a top 10 team. And number 10, I've got Texas. I moved them up 1. So they just played a group of 5 team, but they won 55-0. Their offense played a lot better than it did the week before, and Arch Manning played a lot better. So Texas's defense, it being so good, will get them to a good record by itself. Uh, but Oklahoma is really the only opponent left on Texas's schedule that I think probably has as good of a defense as they do. From what I've seen of both Texas and Georgia so far, I'd say Texas probably has a better defense than Georgia does. But for Texas to have a chance at winning a national championship, they've got to have at least a decent offense to go with it. So number 11, I've got Tennessee. So they played UAB and beat them 56 to 24. Looks like this may be like the Tennessee from several years ago. with a very good offense and a not very good defense because to give up 24 points to BYU, that was not, I mean, UAB, that was not very good. So number 12, I've still got Florida State. They just played a group of five team, but they won really big again, beating them 66 to 10. And number 13, I moved Indiana way up because they were probably the most impressive team this week. And then 14, I moved Ole Miss up a few spots because they were probably the second most impressive team this week. So number 15, I've still got Alabama because they didn't play, but it'll be known this week if Alabama is a good team or not for real because they're playing Georgia. At number 16, I've got Missouri. I didn't move them up much because even though they did beat South Carolina 29-20, that was a one-score game nearly the whole time. Missouri just pulled away late, and South Carolina, I do think, is a bad team. Now, I do still like their quarterback, Lenoris Sellers, but South Carolina, I think, has the worst offensive line in the SEC, and I think that their run game is the worst in the SEC. I think they had negative yards rushing against Missouri. So Missouri, I'd say they did okay in this game, but nothing amazing. It would have actually been bad for Missouri if they would have lost this game. So number 17, I've got Louisville. So they beat Bowling Green 40-17. So they did okay, but not great. So even though I was high on Louisville in the preseason, I'm not willing to move them up much higher than this until I see how they do against Miami in a couple of weeks. So I moved Georgia Tech down to 18 because their win over Clemson now actually does not look very good. They probably, looking at it now, should have won that one a little easier. And they played Temple this past week and won 45-24. So not a very good defensive performance, but I still do think Georgia Tech is a pretty good team. So number 19, I've got Iowa State. So they didn't play this week, but Iowa, one of the teams that Iowa State beat, I watched them play on Friday, and it looks like they are a decent team. So looks like that was a decent win for Iowa State. So I moved Notre Dame down to 20 because even though they did blow out Purdue, who's a horrible team, at 59-30, they've got a lot of work to do on defense. Giving up 30 points to Purdue is unacceptable. Southern Cal, who no doubt has a bad defense, only gave up 17 points to Purdue. And this is surprising because when I looked at Notre Dame's defensive roster in the preseason, it looked the most complete of everybody. They look good at every spot of the defense. Mm, I think it's their defensive coordinator that's terrible. But Notre Dame isn't making the college football playoff with that kind of defense. So number 21, I've got Michigan. So they beat Nebraska 30-27 with their run game. They ran for 290 yards in that game, but their defense is a little concerning because in the preseason, I did think Nebraska could have a pretty good offense. But after watching Nebraska and their opener against Cincinnati. Their offense was actually worse against Cincinnati, who I think is a bad team, than it was against Michigan. Now, Michigan's head coach Sharon Moore was suspended for this game. That was his second of a two-game suspension. And that might have had something to do with it because his suspension was different than Harbaugh's was. Sharon Moore wasn't even allowed to be around for the practices. And at number 22, I've got TCU. I've ranked them in the top 25 for the first time because in the preseason, I thought of TCU as a borderline top 25 team. Now, the win over North Carolina, even though it was a big win, North Carolina is a horrible team, like I thought they would be. But they did beat SMU last week. Also up by 11 points, 35 to 24, who I do think is a decent team. So number 23, I've got Auburn. I kept them ranked because it was a close road loss to a great team. Auburn, I do think, has a good chance of winning the Iron Bowl this year. So number 24, I've got Utah. So even though they got blown out at home, I am very high on Texas Tech, and that game was close into the fourth quarter. And Utah, I still think is going to win 8 games this year. So number 25, I've got Illinois. I moved them way down because even if Indiana is the best team in the country, which they're not, if they lose to somebody 63 to 10, that's a terrible performance. The AP, who had USC ranked at 25 last week, moved them up to 21. And I stayed up late last Saturday to watch USC play for the first time this season. And they looked like a normal Lincoln Riley team, a very good offense, but not a very good defense. Because they gave up 31 points to Michigan State, who I think is a bad team. They're bad at the line of scrimmage, and they just don't have much talent on their roster right now. And what made it even worse for USC's defense is Michigan State's offensive line wasn't even healthy in this game. Mm, the AP moved up Vanderbilt from 20 to 18. I don't think that makes sense because I don't think Vanderbilt has proven enough yet to really even be ranked. Now, if they beat Alabama again in a few weeks, though, then Vanderbilt should definitely be ranked. But that'll be it with this video. Please subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll be back soon.